Live from the green zone that is Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and this absolute embarrassment that's happened over the next couple of days. And we're going to be relentless to get to the bottom of what drove the occupation of these troops, these young men and women who were kicked to the curb last night and made to sleep in parking garages in what, Raheem, 34-degree weather with one head for 500 men and women. Outrageous. You're in the war room. It's Friday, the 22nd of January, the year of our Lord 2021, with a podcast with over 30 million downloads. Also, we're live throughout the nation on John Fredericks Radio Network, on Real America's Voice, streaming, plus up on the satellite Dish Channel 219 and Comcast, subtitled immediately after the show in Mandarin, go throughout the world. The most powerful audience in the world, and that's because we present the facts to Lao Beijing, the deplorables, Gilets jaunes throughout the world. The populist movement. This virus, we started the pandemic back a year ago tomorrow. I think we're going to have a special show tomorrow to talk about the pandemic. 1 year ago tomorrow, we started the show when everybody in the world mocked us, all the media in town. What are you doing, Bannon? It's impeachment. You're crazy. This is a little flu out of someplace in central China. I said, no. You would be incorrect. This is going to change world history. Why? Because they shut down Lunar New Year. I was broadcasting for Lunar New Year, and it got shut down. And the Chinese Communist Party is all about control. They're shutting down Lunar New Year. It's a big deal. We were right. The media was wrong. We were right. The Democrats were wrong. They were laughing at us. These are racist, nativists. You know, we got to go to Chinatown. No, you should not be doing that. Well, this virus is contagious. Now they got a Fauci the clown, and we'll get to him tomorrow. Is saying how there's another super strand out here. Well, courage is contagious also, and courage is actually more contagious. And it takes leaders like Mike Lindell to lead with that courage, and Ken Paxton, and Rudy Giuliani, and the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, the former president, to finish his first term, because he shall return. Mike Lindell, they're attacking Mike Lindell, his business, his suppliers, his vendors, his supply chain, where he sells it. They're out to destroy Lindell. They have to get to you. They have to destroy. They have to go through Lindell, and they're going to go through him. And they're now got on the, because he's an evangelical Christian, had a conversion experience, had a road to Damascus, and like Saul, who turned into St. Paul, became the great evangelist of the Christian faith to the Gentiles, to the heathens. The reason we have Christianity, and by the way, we're going to have Cheryl Chumley on next from the Washington Times, the author of a magnificent book, Socialists Do Not Sleep. Christians must rise or America will fall, to protect the Judeo-Christian West. I want to bring in now Mike Lindell. Mike, people look to you as a fighter. The Daily Mail is the most powerful. By the way, I do love the Daily Mail, although they attack me relentlessly, because it is the most powerful platform in the world.
That's why you love them.
It's why I love it. It's the most powerful platform in the world. I tell everybody, go there. They cover the right stories. They do. Now, they always got their slant on it. So they're always going to be killing the Lindells and the Trumps and the Bannons and the Rudy Giulianis, but they cover the right stories in their own way. If you want to know what the enemy's thinking, you got to go to the Daily Mail out of London, but it's got a massive U.S. president. They're a massive operation. Mike Lindell. What is Mike Lindell going to do about it?
Well, I'm going after them because they went after my reputation. I mean, they went after my integrity, and they went after, they're hurting my Lindell Recovery Network. But I just in, Steve, I want to quick read this. This is a massive attack on me. Here is online. For months, MyPillow founder Mike Lindell has been making false claims that the U.S. election was stolen. Following that, he met with President Trump. Report claims his notes advocated to use military to help Trump stay in power. Petition starter James wants accountability for threats to our democracy. We ask Bed Bath & Beyond, Kohl's have pulled their products from their shelves. Sign up now to ask major retailers like Walmart, Amazon, Costco to do the same. See, this is an attack like of epic proportions. They just keep coming. But you know what? I'm going to keep fighting. I'm bringing down those machines that were fraudulent. We have the evidence now, and we're going to get it out there. But you know what? This Daily Mail thing is a big distraction. I'm going to have lawyers go after them. We're not going to take this. This is, this is the time we have to fight. There is no tomorrow on all this stuff. We have to stand up now. These companies that drop me, because this cancel culture we live in. My employees, I have 2,500 employees. We all talked about it yesterday. In fact, after I got off your show, and I said, you know what? We've got support throughout the country, throughout the world. I said, you guys just hold fast, and we're going to get through this. And we were busier yesterday. Your audience responded. We gave them the promo code Mike, and they went to MyPillow, got my books. They bought the pillows. They saved up to 66% off everything, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I can't thank you all enough for supporting me.
Look, they support you, Mike, because you stand for something. Two things. You had a conversion experience on your road to Damascus, and you're giving back. It's not cheap to do the Recovery Network. Yeah. He's doing that as part of his work, right, which is higher than his political calling. But he's fighting this republic. We're going to have Rudy on later. We'll talk about your machines later with Rudy about, I think that's all got to be presented. Right, look, I'm not a machine guy, but hey, you guys that want to do it and put forward that information, I think there's enough low-hanging fruit, but that's a fight. One last thing I got to get to, though. And Jane Krakowski, who seems like a pretty decent person, she said, hey, this rumor's been going around forever. I keep telling my friends there's nothing to it. She tells the Daily Mail, I don't know Mike Lindell. I never met Mike Lindell. I am not dating Mike Lindell, and Mike Lindell is not trying to get in touch with me. Mike Lindell, you've got, I think, correspondence with the Daily Mail says, I don't know Jane Krakowski. I've never been to the West Village in New York. But you, hold it. Both parties told him this, and they still published the story after absolute denials from two people. But this is because they want to get it up there, so it's going to be referred to thousands of times in stories. Oh yeah, Mike Lindell was pushing champagne and liquor. When can we expect it? You're going to drop? When are you going to drop the lawsuit on him, Mike?
I'm hoping today. I'm going to reach out. I've reached out to a couple attorneys, my in-house attorney and some other ones that specialize in this, and I don't wait on things, so believe me, I'm going to hit back right away. This is terrible.
Okay, people want to know how to support you, so we want to tell people how to get the book. You got to read the book, and then how to get to the MyPillow. So tell people how do they get to the book? Tell them what's the code.
Right. I self-published, so I have 3 million books ready to go out, and this book, What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO? I'm doing it for $9.97 and free shipping. It'll change your life. It's amazing. I worked on it 7 years. Use the promo code Mike at mypillow.com. And while you're there, you can shop around. We have over 110 products. You can save up to 66% on all those products, from bathrobes to sheets to towels to my brand new bed that came out, my patented bed. But all these things are there, and my employees are standing by. We got 2,500 employees, U.S. American employees that that appreciate everything everyone's standing up for against these box stores that are boycotting us. So thank you all very much.
Mike Lindell, thank you very much. You're an American hero. Amazing.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
God
brother.
bless.
God bless. Amazing story.
By the way, not for nothing, but that actress, Jane, whatever her name is, Krakowski. I've seen Mike Lindell out and around. He's got loads of fans. He doesn't need to chase after Jane Krakowski, right? It just doesn't make sense.
I can understand guys. I know guys that try to date Hollywood. That's fine. But look, she seems pretty decent. It's not her fault. She told him. She says this meme's been going around forever.
It's so
and I think she's a pretty prominent progressive, right? So it's not that. But this is the thing. Every person that steps forward, they got to destroy. They don't want to have a debate. This proves the power of our arguments. They don't want to debate you. They want to destroy you. Understand what the game is. Do you think it's random that they dropped that story? Because they all watch The War Room. They're all watching. Every producer's watching it. All the hedge fund guys are watching it. The hedge fund guys that took when you're saying, hey, this thing's going to implode, it's big. Trust me, when they short it, because they said, hey, this guy's actually walking through what this pandemic is. This is a smart guy. That's all the producers. They dropped the story about the same time. The reason is that his life's work is his recovery. His life's work is not the politics thing he just came to. The life's work is his dedication to his God and to Jesus Christ, right? That's his life work, and that's why they went after it. And here's the insidious way they did it. Oh, he's winging her with champagne and liqueurs, right? To show you what a hypocrite he is.
I have a similar story. It was about 11 years ago, and I was running a counter-extremism group in the UK, which looked at where young Muslims are being radicalized on campuses. And we got this Twitter notification or something, social media or something, that was a hijabi girl, who wear the headscarf and everything, who said she was going to make a public claim that I offered her a job in exchange for sex. And I don't know whether they wanted me to take this seriously or not. And I just laughed at it. I said, "Hold on a minute. You're expecting me to believe? You're expecting the public to believe that, number one, the Islam guy wants to sleep with a hijabi girl, and secondly, would give the hijabi girl a job at the counter-extremism pressure group." And then suddenly the whole thing went away. But this is what they do, right? Yeah. They go to the credibility element of all of this.
Yes. They didn't attack. They didn't attack his politics. They've been doing that enough, but they wanted to go to the actual integrity of who the person is. If you are so inclined, please support Mike Lindell, because they're trying to destroy that company, and they're trying to destroy that company because the guy had the courage to stand up and say, "I don't think this is right." You heard the AG of the state of Texas. Ken Paxton's no lightweight. This guy's a heavy. He's the Attorney General of outside of California. Has got to be the two most powerful states, and that's the one everybody's moving into because of how Ken Paxton is helping Abbott run the state. Every high-tech company's trying to move down there. Elon Musk just moved down there. I think Hewlett-Packard just moved down there. Elon Musk is no right-wing conservative. Why? Because they like the way that Paxton and these guys rolls. He's saying, hey, the president's got to make the case about how the election was stolen. You heard Professor Clements at the beginning. We're going to get more into that and hope to get him on. His video, everybody should watch. He's no right-wing nut. He's no huge Trump guy. He's just sitting there going, overwhelming evidence. Okay, I want to bring in now Cheryl Chumley. Do we have Cheryl? We're trying to, in this show, present you with new voices, powerful voices. And there was an article in the Washington Times yesterday, a piece by Cheryl Chumley, and she's already the author of an amazing book. And I keep saying this: socialists do not sleep. Christians must rise or America will fall. People got to read this book. But it was the article that got me immediately. Cheryl, thank you very much for joining us here in War and Pandemic.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you, Steve.
Yeah, we only got a minute in this segment. We're going to come back and take the whole next segment. Raheem and I go through it. But I wanted that you, and maybe we get the headline. It's about, the book is amazing, by the way. The book is fantastic. It's absolutely the thesis that we have on the show. To save the Judeo-Christian West, everybody must stand because socialists do not sleep. But I want to go to, we've only got a minute, and then we'll take the break. Walk us through how you picked Animal Farm. And the headline was so powerful. Why did you pick Animal Farm to talk about Trump and the Republican Party in this moment?
Well, George Orwell's 1984 is great. It's pertinent, but really, I think Animal Farm is even more pertinent to what's going on. Animal Farm is basically about animals who rebel against their human oppressors, and then after the rebellion is successful, certain animals think they're better than the rest, and so they actually move to the side of working with the humans. And if you look at what happens to Trump, as soon as he's out of office, what do we have? Democrats going behind closed doors to work with Republicans.
I tell you what, Cheryl, hang on. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to pay for the show. The thesis: 4 legs are good, 2 legs are bad. We're going to return with Cheryl Chumley from the Washington Times, the author of Socialists Don't Sleep, Christians Must Rise or America Will Fall. Back in a moment on War Room Pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, write this down now. The Rasmussen tracking poll has him at 48%. He had awful ratings. The real ratings on the percentage base were awful, particularly when you get the CCP virus, COVID-19, everybody's home, nobody watched it. This occupation of Washington, D.C. is going to blow up in their face. Governor DeSantis, Jack Posobiec breaking, Raheem, what is DeSantis doing?
Is ordering the troops to return home to Florida. Governor DeSantis effectively saying that this is a half-cocked mission and that the troops do not serve as Nancy Pelosi's servants. It's pretty incredible.
Texas has already done. We had we had Attorney General Paxton on later. We're going to get back to him. Texas, this is what the governors need to do. We need to hear from the governors what was driving this occupation. What presentations did they have from DHS? What presentations did they have from the intelligence community? They said it's icy chatter about the Boogaloo Boys and all that. Fine. Hey, I have no problem. Show me the receipts, because this is going to blow up in their face. Why are they sleeping? Why are 500 young men and women in the National Guard sleeping like dogs in a parking garage, unheated parking garage with one head, one toilet for all the men and women? Raheem Kassam, how'd that come about?
So it looks like, the developing story, it looks like it was Congressman Bill Keating from Massachusetts who made a complaint that not all National Guard members were wearing masks while they were waiting at a Dunkin' Donuts for presumably coffee and donuts, and therefore made a complaint and had them effectively removed from the Capitol grounds and pushed into these garages where there were reportedly exhaust fumes, one toilet for all of them to use. There are some pretty horrific images of that one toilet, by the way, leaking onto the street that they were supposed to be using after
They're
Bill
props.
Keating and others were kicked
The
them
heart
out.
we have to get to is why this city has been shut down as a green. We say green zone. We're not trying to be wise guys at the beginning. It's like Baghdad's green zone at the height of the war. And we have to understand why it was necessary. If it's necessary, I'm all good. But when a week before you had a couple of Capitol Hill police and a few bike racks, what changed? Oh, yes, I understand. It was stormed. I got that part. Antifa, the Groypers, some of these white supremacist group, white nationalists, yes, bad hombres, doom, not good guys. Okay, got that. People should be held accountable for that. But overall, to occupy Washington, D.C., and they won in Pelosi wanted gun emplacements, wanted machine gun emplacements.
Yeah.
DeSantis and Abbott have to tell us why this was done. I'm glad they ordered their troops home, and also had the indoctrination, the screening of the social media. I want to return now to Cheryl Chumley, writer for the Washington Times, author of the book "Socialists Don't Sleep: Christians Must Rise or America Will Fall." I want everybody in this audience to order this book now. Go to Amazon, get the book. My phone's already blown up. A bunch of people have already ordered it. So and by the way, you nailed it. As soon as I saw it, I've been telling guys, I love 1984. I love Brave New World. The book of the moment is Animal House. Animal Farm. Animal Farm, right? 4 legs, that's the movie of the moment, always. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Cheryl Chumley, talk to us about Animal Farm, why it is the book that must be read now.
Well, it just pertains to everything that's going on, particularly with Donald Trump. If you look at how Republicans operate in D.C., they campaign on the message that Democrats are evil. Democrats are the ones that are preventing all these great conservative principles and agendas from going forward. And then as soon as they get to office, what do? They go behind closed doors and work with Democrats. We saw this under Barack Obama. We saw this with John Boehner and the constant raising of the debt ceiling. And now we're seeing it as soon as Trump is officially out of the White House. Here we have Senator Mitch McConnell meeting behind closed doors with Senator Chuck Schumer, the very guy that we've been told for so long is the enemy, the face of the evil Democrats, along with Nancy Pelosi. And he's talking about forging deals to cooperate to make Joe Biden's appointees on fast track to realization. And he's also talking with Chuck Schumer, according to reports about this closed-door meetings, about having a fair impeachment trial, whatever that might be, for a guy who's not even president any longer. But if you look at what's happening as it pertains to Animal Farm, it's that shift from 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, 2 legs being the Democrat Party, 4 legs being the Republican Party, to all of a sudden 4 legs good, but 2 legs better. So now Republicans see Democrats as even better.
Now, here's the power way you wrote it, and we've got the column up. We're going to put it in the live chat. Everybody's got to read this. The genius of how you wrote this was that in Animal Farm, they got to simplify the message because the deplorables are just the animals, the grundoons, the deplorables are just too stupid to understand anything subtle. So it's 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And that's how they basically talk about the Democrats all the time, right? They sell you this pap, like down in Georgia. Oh, it's socialism, it's all this stuff. They're putting it all up there, but they're not getting to the heart of what the issues are and supporting Trump where they would have won. 300,000 Trump voters stayed home because they didn't think the 2 people running had Trump's back. That's why they lost. But they got to dumb down the message. Why? Because our audience is too stupid to understand anything sophisticated. But then as they start to take on the attributes of the humans, they start to shift. So that's why I think you've absolutely nailed it. This has got to get a broad reading. Real quickly, we got a couple of minutes. So I want to get everybody's going to read the Animal Farm piece of Cheryl Chumley we're going to put up there. A major new voice. But I want to go to the book because the book nails exactly what we're talking about. Don't think your opposition. They're not dumb. They're not lazy. They're hardworking and they're smart and they don't rest. They started the nullification project at the minute Trump was called by the Associated Press. The nullification project started. So walk us through briefly your book.
Well, my book actually, I conceived the idea almost 20 years ago when George Bush was president, when a Republican was in office. And he signed, after working with Democrats, a piece of legislation called the American Dream Down Payment Act, which took tax dollars to give to minorities to encourage home ownership. And I thought at the time, how is that not socialism? And so I became laser focused on all the things in America that are socialist right now that we just don't call it socialist. Mm-hmm. And now we have a Democrat Party who has successfully run roughshod over America's Constitution by claiming things aren't socialist when they in fact are. And we have open socialists serving in office, and it all starts because people don't recognize the socialism just because Democrats call it something else. So in my book, I hope to educate people to identify socialism before it actually takes root and spreads, and how to best fight it, because under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, watch out. In the first 100 days, it's just going to steamroll into America's political system.
Cheryl, what are your coordinates? How do people follow you during the day, and how do they make sure they don't miss any more of your columns?
Well, I am on Twitter still at CK Chumley, though losing followers as we speak. So please go to the Washington Times and find my work there, and my podcast, Bold and Blunt, or on my website, CherylChumley.com.
So the podcast, the podcast is Bold and Blunt?
Mm-hmm. It's at the Washington Times right now. Okay. It's twice a week, and I cover everything from a Christian conservative perspective, have guests on from all walks of life.
Cheryl Chumley, she's bold and blunt. You got to read this thing on Animal Farm. It's amazing. And also the book. Thank you very much for joining us. Coming from the great Washington Times. Thank you for joining us today, Cheryl.
Thank you. God bless.
We've got to get our heads around one thing, and that is how this is obviously going to be an incredible read, and I want to get my hands on it as well, but how we get these things out without people having to go to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and those kinds of things. This is the feedback I'm getting in the live chat right now.
It's a problem.
And I want to tell people, by the way, we're not resting on any laurels here. I had a phone call with a conservative ad network yesterday. Instead of serving all these trash ads across conservative websites, these guys are looking at bringing in, quality advertising for conservative audiences that don't blacklist. So there are people, and of course all the social media stuff too. So we'll get our heads around this, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to give that feedback for the live chat. We are thinking about things and how to disintermediate from Amazon and all those kinds of things every single day.
It is a work in progress.
For sure, but we're going to get there.
But that's what we try to highlight, and you're better at this than I am, but because you guys feed it to me, Cloud Hub and Gab and all. Look, I have become, back in my earlier days as a financier, I was all over distribution, understanding distribution is quite complicated, particularly as it's gotten with a major tech component. So I've essentially taken myself out. I do the content. You guys worry about the distribution. In fact, why don't we've got about a minute. Talk about here we have a newsletter, we have show notes, we have everything. How can people get all the information?
Well, look, we print this thing out for you.
I know, but you're better at it.
Give me that. All right, let's do some housekeeping here, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have it yet, I want to make sure that you get the Real America's Voice app by texting War Room. That's WARROOM, all one word, to 888-111. Text War Room to 888-111. The website is warroom.org, and if you put a /join on the end of that, warroom.org/join, you get to join up to our newsletter. Don't miss a second or a show from here in the War Room. Of course, the live chat still exists, thanks to our good friends at America's Voice. That's available at americasvoice.news. You can find clips from the shows at minds.com, at Gab. The full shows also go up on Rumble, on all the podcast platforms, barring, I think, Spotify. So you can make sure you head on over to Apple Podcasts. You can download, subscribe, leave us a review. It's all free. And, of course, we have so many great partners that we partner with here as well, like Populous Press. Citizen Free Press has it up every day. What used to win is now Patriots.win and beyond.
Well, actually, should send a link to all that stuff. By the way, everything's free. We don't charge for anything. All we actually do is download, leave reviews, leave comments, and become part of a community. You're already hearing some of the most powerful people in the world come on here and say, hey, this is the most powerful audience in the world. You're having book publishers who, trust me, are not conservative, sitting there going, oh, my God, this is like the Oprah Book Club. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Raheem and I will be back, and then we're going to have Rudy a little bit later in the segment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
There was an old saying in the Royal Navy, in Nelson's Navy, which was the greatest Navy, probably even greater than the United States Navy at the top of its game, when it took down Napoleon in the Nile, and then Trafalgar, when it really stopped Napoleon's cold, that we want the crews sullen but not mutinious, right? And the beatings will continue until attitude improves. What I'm really proud about, the War Room posse, the whining has stopped, right? And there wasn't a line, but I understand there are a lot of people that wanted, that we thought that, General Flynn was going to come and have mass arrests. That's all beyond you. It's a new day. You're focused on the work at hand, and you're seeing the vanguard of how we're going to get there, and the math is backing you up. The math is backing you up. The media is at an all-time low with the American people, not just conservatives, all-time low in the polling by Edelman. The New York Times under pressure. Why do you think we start every day by that CNN, head of politics at CNN with the embracing arms? It's to put them on notice that we know what the game is. And we're going to rub CNN and all the media's nose in that to watch this every day. Every day. New York Times just fired an editor. Why? Because she had chills coming down her spine. They know that they're being watched now. They know we've turned it around on them. Okay?
What they actually know is the latest polling in terms of how much people trust the media, and they're trying to...
This is my point.
Yeah.
These are business operations. It's imploding. Yeah. Why? Their propaganda apparatuses.
The Fox numbers are just incredible.
Fox, the people should abandon Fox. I hate to say it. If you're gonna trash Trump and and they thought you guys were dumb enough to hang around. Guess what? The deplorables are pretty smart. My grandfather went to the 3rd grade. My dad's a high school graduate, 2 smartest guys I ever met. And I've been in those boardrooms, at the Goldman Sachs, I've seen the McKinsey, all those guys. That's smart. What did Buckley say? Give me the choice of being governed by the top 100 partners at Goldman Sachs or the top 100 partners at McKinsey, or the first 100 people that show up at a Trump rally with MAGA hats on, or the first 100 guys that go to Davos with the special badges, the special Davos man. Give me top 100 Davos men versus the first 100 MAGA deplorables that show up in red ball caps at a Trump rally. I will take the MAGA guys every day of the week. The common sense, the decency, the grit, the determination, the understanding of what life's about, what civic society is. That's what we built this nation on. That's what we have a global audience. Lao Baixing's the same way. They've been enslaved by the Chinese Communist Party. People throughout the world understand the same thing. That's why we're a beacon of hope. American exceptionalism is because of the working class and middle class people. That's the exceptionalism. Yes, we have documents that are divinely inspired. The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all of it's divinely inspired, but it was on the shoulders of the deplorables. We were able to execute that. Remember, after the lawyers negotiated the Declaration of Independence, hey, 4 months later, you're at Trenton. Okay, if you hadn't crossed the river with the deplorables on a snowy Christmas night and taken on the Hessians, after having your asses kicked for the previous 90 days from New York all the way back to cross the Delaware and to go, that was working class and middle class folks. You're the power, not them. You're the power. That's why Cheryl Chumley's, you got to read her Animal Farm takeoff about the Republican Party. She says you're always told over and over again, these Democrats are horrible, Democrats are horrible, Democrats are horrible. They come here. That's what's called the swamp. So they get here, they're cutting deals. Trump hasn't even left. The wheels haven't gone up in Air Force One, and they're sitting there kissing their asses, figuring out how to make deals. And the most outrageous thing is this trial in the Senate. The professor at New Mexico State, he's no right-wing nut job. He's sitting there going, I've looked at every hearing. I've looked at all the Rudy stuff. I've gone to all the court filings. I've looked at Wisconsin. He's sitting there. He just some guy. He says, hey, I don't know what they're talking about. There's overwhelming evidence. Overwhelming evidence. He says, I've gone through. There's 500 affidavits of hard evidence. I want to bring in now Mayor Rudy Giuliani. There's a unique opportunity in American history that's before us, and this drives the stake in the Biden administration. They're only at 48%. Trump was at 56. Obama was at 67. 2/3 of the nation coming together around President Obama. The young populist that won in 2008, right, with his neoliberal neocon guy, Joe Biden, right, who would eventually structure the bailout so Wall Street was taken care of. You had the greatest concentration of wealth in the nation's history. So, Rudy, we're hearing all this kind of chatter. It's going to start in mid-February. Got a guy from South Carolina, looks like a decent guy, although he did go to Tulane Law School. Not the Tulane Law School, is not the Harvard or New Orleans, but hombre, hey, it's here. They're going to argue about something in a couple of days on this and that, and Lindsey Graham's involved. A flashing light should go off on that. And we've got the receipts. We've got the evidence. This should be epic. The whole world should have to sit there. And here's what should be done. Here's why the Republicans don't want it, because if you showed the evidence state by state, and you started in Wisconsin, you went to Georgia, and you went to Arizona, you went to Nevada, you went to Michigan, and left Pennsylvania for the end, for 20 days or 21 days or 22 days with Peter Navarro and there's Professor Clements out in New Mexico and others that can show you the receipts, you are putting the Republican establishment on trial. Mitch McConnell and the Republican senators are on trial of why they did nothing and stood aside. And you're putting them on trial of how they lost the Senate, not the deplorables, not MAGA, not Donald Trump, but them. They're on trial in the Senate, and that's why they want it quick and dirty. That's why they got Lindsey Graham, going around like his little Rasputin self, cutting deals. They can't handle the truth. Mayor Giuliani, what say you?
Well, first of all, I have my own view, which is that this case should be brought to a trial. We should have 20 or 30 days of trial, and we should prove what we now are able to prove, which is 6 states were stolen from Donald Trump. We can give you pretty close to the exact numbers. We can provide you with 100 witnesses, 7 or 8 scientists, 4 or 5 videos and audio evidence, and then, of course, that absolutely valuable smoking gun, which is the video in Fulton County, Georgia, which shows you the theft of 30,000 votes, enough to change the election in Georgia. You can't escape it. You can lie, you can say debunked, you can cry, you can try to shoot the people who have it. And so a trial would vindicate Donald Trump. It would show that he had actually won the election. A trial would also show that he had absolutely nothing to do with the terrible things that happened at the Capitol. He conducted himself exactly the way he should have. The crowd that he spoke to, which is the only one he can be responsible for, was not incited. There's plenty of film of them. I've been over all of it, all of his words. No wild, crazy, violent reaction. So that's a bogus crime. Plus, they're impeaching him to remove him. Did anybody ever tell them he's removed? To remove him, they have to put him back in the White House. A do-over of the inauguration. This is the most idiotic, dopey impeachment, but also malicious that I've ever seen. And there's an opportunity, if the president takes it, to prove everything we've been trying to prove, and I hope we get that opportunity.
Mayor, I want to talk about the overall. Here's the thing: is that the Republican establishment certainly does not want. The last thing they want is for Trump to present this evidence, or Trump's people to present this evidence, because all the voters on the 74, 75 million people that voted for Trump are going, hey, these guys had this out there from the beginning. You had the 2,000 affidavits. You had this evidence. Why wasn't it taken care of? They would be put on trial and held accountable. And I dare anybody besides crazies like Ben Sass and Mitt Romney, that their hatred of Trump is, and the hatred of the deplorables is so strong, you can't get them off it. But any other senator that would vote to convict Trump, because here's what the Republican establishment wants to purge him. They want to purge Trump and keep his voters. They definitely want to purge Trump and keep his voters, and it's just not doable. You see in his ratings, the people, what they hold him in esteem, what he went through for the country, his patriotism. They're not buying the mainstream media's line. He's a beloved figure in all his imperfections, and he is imperfect. He'd be the first to admit that. In all his imperfections, he's a beloved figure by the deplorables. And they understand. They have the common sense of the American people. They understand what the guy had to fight, right? They understand what the guy stood up for. They get it. They're unwavering. That's why this is his moment. This is his moment to make the case. And by the way, this will throw it into a constitutional crisis because it's quite evident that it's illegitimate and illegal. Mayor, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the Democrats obviously developed this plan, executed this plan. It was a major voter fraud conspiracy that I think goes beyond this country, and we're ready to prove that if we're given a day in court, which we haven't been given yet. Secondly, however, Republicans are as responsible for this as Democrats. I mean, the Republican National Committee could be one of the worst in many ways, because the Republican National Committee has raised something like $170 million in order to defend Trump. My goodness, if we've seen 20 million of that, it's a lot. And every time we ask for something, it's a major production. Many people that worked on the Trump situation did it out of their own pocket. Not only not getting paid, but actually paying for things that the Republican National Committee wouldn't supply. And now they've got easily another $100 million that could be used to put on a nationwide defense, not just in the Congress, but in the cities of America, where we could go there and we could show them, we could let them touch the evidence, see it. They could talk to the people, the good American people like them, who were forced to cheat and have now confessed to it. This is a real case, Steve, and it's one of the worst things that happened in the history of our country. And to blame it just on the Democrats is a mistake. We have Republicans, and I'll name them, McConnell, Pence, Romney, who are just as responsible for what happened here. Pence could have very easily turned those votes back to the legislatures that were asking for it. He had an opinion from Professor John Eastman, one of our leading professors, that it was unconstitutional, should not be followed. He had law review articles, I've shown them to you, filling a room, and it's unconstitutional. Even Lawrence Tribe, the Democratic constitutional lawyer, said it was unconstitutional. He could have discarded that law, as he should have. Never been upheld by the Supreme Court, by the way. And he could have made the decision, not that Trump won, but that the states that were seeing terrible problems, machines that were triple voting, machines that were discounting 80% of the votes, they wanted time to do a forensic report. And the Democrats succeeded all over the country in concealing those machines. Every single time we went to court and we wanted to see the machines, we couldn't.
Let's take a break. By the way, Professor Eastman has put up on the American Mind, and we'll make sure we put in the live chat, an amazing article. He walks through and actually goes into the Pence letter and says where it's technically very wrong from what the president was asking for. We're going to get into all that. And like I said, the machines are different. In Maricopa, they're checking them. I think that requires a much more, investigative apparatus. But there's enough low-hanging fruit on the voter fraud and just the election fraud part of it that could compel the case. It would take about 20 days. And you're not going to have unity in this country. This is what Biden's got to understand with a 48% approval rating as tracking poll by Rasmussen. You're not going to have any political capital. You're not going to have unity until we try to heal this wound. Okay? It's just not going to happen. Be back with Rudy in a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Well, I think there will be things we disagree on. That's how America works. But hopefully there are things that we can come together on. Even the pandemic response, it's so important that we build herd immunity as soon as we can. While I am not for giving a $1,400 stimulus check for anything, I'd be willing to sign off on a stimulus check of $1,400 for people who take the vaccine. And I hope the administration will look at that option, because we actually buy something with our $1,400, and that's herd immunity.
Is that?
I think there will be.
Is that a senior? That voice is a senior member of the Republican House, General. I think National Guard and Army Reserve General Stivers out of the Cincinnati or Columbus area in Ohio?
That is correct. That is Ohio's 15th District Representative Steve Stivers saying that ordinary people should not get a $1,400 check despite their government shutting down their businesses, despite the government taking steps that put them on the back foot, in some cases out of their own homes, out of the ability to pay rent, out of the ability to feed their kids. No checks for you unless you take the vaccine.
I'd like to have the live chat right now. Tell us what you think of that. And look, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, right? However, as great as this thing was to come forward, there's a lot of questions about it, et cetera. I think, but making it tied to the relief checks, it's mind-boggling that he would support that, and that's clearly been talked about internally. Wow. Okay, and by the way, just announced Nancy Pelosi is going to deliver the instrument of the impeachment on Monday, the 25th. I want to bring back now one of the president's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani. Mayor Giuliani. So the process will start on Monday, but I got to ask you one thing that people have just blowing my phone up nonstop. They didn't see where a special prosecutor was announced about Hunter Biden, James Biden, and the Daily Mail did that story 2 weeks ago or a week ago, right? Said James Biden had told his brother Joe, "Hey, this hard drive could upend your presidential race," right? Because they knew at the time that was real. It wasn't Russian disinformation. Where do we stand right now with the prosecution of the Bidens on being compromised by the Chinese Communist Party?
Seems to me it's as fixed as it's always been. The fact is that Joe could say that to him because he knew the case was fixed, as they had been fixed for 30 years. I mean, Joe was one of those special people that was allowed to cheat for 30 years and get away with it. And everybody knew it, and nobody pursued it. And then he got himself in a very, very comfortable position of being the only alternative to the person that the Trump derangement syndrome people think is the devil. And therefore, any dishonesty, any crime is justified against Trump.
So is there going to be, will there be any, I mean, the hard drive was turned over to the FBI and DOJ in December of 2019. Sean Hannity tonight is going to have the second part of his interview with the clerk at the store that took it. Remember, they trashed him nonstop. Now, the Bidens never, everybody understands he did take it. It did come from there. The Bidens have never refuted one piece of the hard drive of the evidence of the the canceled checks, the wire transfers, the joint venture agreements, the signed contracts. Not one piece have they ever denied. So, Rudy, we got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Where does that all stand? Is there some U.S. attorney on it? Is there some prosecutor on it? People are just sitting there going, these guys took millions of dollars trying to cut all these deals with CCP companies. He admits in his own words that he was dealing with the top spy of the Chinese Communist Party. This is Hunter Biden. His voice never been denied. People just want to know, is anything happening?
Not that I know of, Steve. Any prosecutor sitting with that hard drive for over a year, not being able to develop any crimes out of it, the fix is in. They're being corrupt. The crimes are obvious. I can outline them for you. Some are very, very simple. Some required immediate action because they involved what appears to be, in the words of Hunter Biden, possible danger for children. It's unthinkable, unconscionable that nothing was done about that.
Okay, Rudy, hang on. We only got 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You and Bernie Carrick, you hand delivered a hard drive down to Delaware authorities, correct? What happened with that?
Yep. Yeah, I gave him the exact images that New York City detectives who do this all the time said, if you have possession of that image, you get automatically arrested. So he hasn't been not only hasn't he been automatically arrested, he's been feted at the inauguration, and that's almost I don't know how small or big that is. Then you get to the other side. They were partners with the Chinese Communist government, took hundreds of millions. I mean, that's crazy, and it's not being investigated. And this is our prime adversary. And you can simply say, if I show you that hard drive, they own the family, not just Joe. They were supporting the whole family.
Rudy, I got to do something, though, because your podcast is on fire. Tell our audience again, how do you get to Rudy's Common Sense, and then what's your social media contacts? Because you're a man on fire right now. This podcast is a must watch. 2 times a week should come out. How do you get to Rudy's Common Sense?
Rudy'sCommonSense.com. That's it.
And you
hit subscribe for free. You get 108 episodes, including the most recent. And then if you just go to Rudy'sCommonSense.com, you'll also have my website and everything else we do.
And you put it out how many times a week, Rudy? Just so people know, Rudy's Common Sense comes out.
We put it out 2 times a week. There'll be one coming out. There'll be one coming out tonight in which I analyze more or less the changes that Biden has already announced, which was a much, much stronger turn to the left than I thought he would do right away. I thought he'd be more of a gradualist in doing that.
Mayor, what's your social media handles? What's Twitter and other handles you got?
Just Rudy Giuliani.
Mayor, thank you very much for joining us here.
You're all set. You can get me.
On board. Look forward to the podcast tonight. Thank you, sir.
We've got a great show at 3 p.m. Greg Stubbe will be joining us. Congressman Greg Stubbe will be joining us to talk about the Save the Girls sports stuff. Also, I want people to go to ThanksTrump.org. I've set up this site where people can leave their thank you messages for President Trump, and people can, I'll deliver them, make sure they're delivered to President Trump. It's ThanksTrump.org.
Back at 5 o'clock, Steve Cortez, co-host in studio, and Peter Navarro is our guest at 5 o'clock. A lot to go through. Rudy's Common Sense coming out tonight at 6.